until they get elected, or maybe after they've been elected, they still claim to be an outsider, to separate themselves from the government and the public's perception of it. Assuming that you are elected and become one of the much vaunted insiders and join the legislature, join the Congress, what do you plan on doing specifically to try and improve the general public's view of Congress as a whole, since they pretty much see it as a non-functioning entity at this point?
Exactly. And it is. And part of that is because we're not transparent. You will see, if you go to my Facebook page, that almost everywhere that I go, I actually have video or camera or something. I'm not hiding from the constituents. I believe that constituents should have access to what's happening in Washington, D.C. So much is carried on by the media in little pockets of information, and it's very one-sided. It's either red shirt or blue shirt. But ultimately, it is the constituents. Once I am elected, I have an oath to the Constitution. I have been elected by constituents in both parties. So therefore, I will strive to keep my doors open at all times for everybody, informing them of what the important issues are going on in Washington, D.C. that impact our communities. Will I be able to tell them every single minute of every day? Probably not. But I will be able to inform them as to what kind of impact I think that there is from reading the legislation, and I will want their feedback because I'm a representative of them. I am not going to dictate, and I am not going to do the crony capitalist thing, which is get a bunch of donations now and then carry out what those people want rather than what my constituents need.
In your